The north face of Les Droites is a treacherous climb. But it's exactly the kind of challenge Jamie Fisher relishes.
What do you reckon?
Jamie was really a true mountaineer. That was his big calling in life. He often seemed to think about nothing else.
So basically, we'll overnight at Le Grand Montet in order to get an early start in the morning. 3-hour brisk walk, we're at the foot of the face. Okay.
Jamie Fisher is determined not to let this opportunity pass. But first, he has to persuade his best friend.
We got a week of this window. Perfect weather.
A week?
A week. There's no reason why we can't tick this off. You won't even know we're gone. We'll be back before you know it.
It would have been very nice to just spend the whole week on the slopes, skiing, snowboarding, having fun, just being with our friends. But both of us knew that we had something within us deeper that was driving us to do more.
You know, you're really going to get him into trouble one of these days, Jamie.
And? Cheers.
Cheers. Salut.
Le droit.
The Droites.
Once the decision was made, Jamie and I were set. We were going.
The two Jamies take the cable car to the top station, 10,000 feet up the mountain. They'll spend the night there to get a head start in the morning.
I certainly was getting very nervous about it by now. You know, even with all the experience I had under my belt, you know, you always get nervous before a big climb. And I always find I reach this stage in the night where I kind of wish that there's a big storm going to come in and I can call the whole thing off. I remember opening my eyes and seeing Jamie pacing about. He'd obviously not been able to sleep either, and he'd got up and was wandering about.
Come on, Sleeping Beauty. Time to go.
Just give me a minute, okay?
Come on, stop whinging. Get ready.
Okay, I'm up.
The next day, the two Jamies set off to begin their climb of Les Droites.
It was a long, hard trudge up the glacier. Jamie was much more up for it that morning, and I was feeling pretty ropey with the altitude and general nerves. And I could hear him singing to himself as he trudged through the snow.
Anyone ever told you got a really lovely singing voice, Jamie?
Yeah, they told me I got a beautiful voice.
He could sometimes be frustrating, but, you know, he was great company.
When they arrive at the foot of the vast ice face that leads to the summit, they get their first sighting of the awesome challenge ahead.
It is a 1,000-meter unbroken face of rock and ice. So it was pretty scary, but also, you know, really got our adrenaline going, I think.
Got a coin?
Yeah. There you go.
Heads or tails?
Heads.
Tails! I'm on it.
And that moment when you're actually on the climb, it's as if all that nervous energy just disappears. It just dissolves into the sheer joy of the climbing itself.
In midwinter, the weather in the Alps can change in an instant. But today, the two men have ideal conditions for their climb.
How's it looking out there?
Great, mate! The ice is absolutely perfect!
Scaling Les Droites is a 2-day climb. And as dusk falls on the first afternoon, the two friends find a ledge to rest up for the night.
Well, mate? Yeah.
You don't expect great luxury in these circumstances.
Huh?
You don't expect 3-star hotels, But we were pretty happy with that.
Your room will be ready in a sec, Mr. Andrews.
Oh, thank you very much.
You know, being able to get into our sleeping bags, to get lying down, to get hot drink, that was good enough for us.
Good day, huh?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, we'll crack it for sure tomorrow.
Yeah.
We were both feeling elated. We were bang on target at that stage. We were exactly halfway, which was what we'd hoped.
As dawn breaks, the two men set off on the final ascent to the summit. A sheer vertical ice face, one of the toughest climbs in the Alps.
There's no ledges on the face where you can take a break. And so it is very tiring on your calves, your calf muscles. Essentially, you're standing on your tippy toes all day. By about lunchtime on that second day, we were feeling pretty confident at that stage. We were feeling that, you know, we were going to reach the top within a few hours.
They make great progress. But 800 feet from the summit, conditions suddenly change.
I don't like the look of those clouds, mate!
We'd been perfectly clear the 1 minute. The next minute we looked up and there were these clouds rolling over the summit ridge of the mountain. We realised that this was a pretty serious storm that was coming in. It wasn't long before the snow started falling. It just became phenomenal. It very quickly became very, very heavy indeed.
In just a matter of minutes, the two climbers have been slammed by a vicious alpine blizzard.
But we weren't too worried at this stage. You don't expect to be able to climb a mountain face like that without encountering some bad weather.
But far from blowing over, the storm rapidly intensifies.
I've never experienced anything like it. It was just piling down onto our backs and rucksacks. You know, literally faster than we could shake it off. It was just incredible.
Then suddenly, the fresh snow triggers the thing climbers fear most. Mountain avalanches.
You just have to hold on to your ice axes as tightly as possible, just close your eyes and hope for this avalanche to pass. It was horrendous climbing in those conditions. It was just really, really, really hard.
The two friends are now clinging to the side of the mountain, knowing every step could be their last.
It became a job of survival. There were great periods of time when we couldn't see each other. It was just impossible climbing in such horrendous conditions. So it was pretty tough.
They now face a life or death decision.
Jamie! Woo! This is something, huh? Yeah, but what do we do?
Abandoning their climb would mean descending the 3,000 feet of treacherous ice below them.
To attempt to descend the very difficult and dangerous climbing that we'd done already in those conditions had been, you know, almost suicidal.
Not going down in this, mate! Head for the closest pass, near the summit!
Their only option is to keep on climbing through the blizzard.
If we could reach the summit ridge, we would be safe from the avalanches. We could dig ourselves in, and then just wait for the storm to pass.
The two friends battle on, but it's desperately slow progress.
By the time it was starting to get dark, suddenly one of the bolts on my right ice axe started to work loose.
Jamie needs both of his axes. They're his only way of scaling the ice face. He has to carry on and pray the axe head won't come off.
We were really reduced to a snail's pace now. The climbing was so much more arduous and fatiguing, and of course frightening.
In the raging blizzard, and with a broken ice axe, the two Jamies know that what began as an exciting adventure has turned into a potentially deadly climb.
I was beginning to think that we would never reach the top. It just seemed to be going on and on forever.
Jamie!
But it was Jamie who suddenly let out this yell.
A boat somewhere!
And I knew from his tone that this was it. He'd made it. He was at the top. Suddenly, both there we were on the top, on the summit ridge. And that was great. That was fantastic.
At the summit, the two Jamies can finally rest and wait for the storm to subside. But the ridge is just a sliver of ice, 3 feet wide by 5 feet long, with sheer drops of over 1,000 feet on either side.
The place where we arrived was really a knife edge of snow and ice.
Jesus Christ, Jamie, we can't stay here! It'll be fine! It's only for the night! The storm can't keep up!
We were completely exposed to the elements. There was no protection whatsoever from the snow and from the wind and from these massive drops to either side of us. So it was a pretty hair-raising place to have to spend the night.
They get into their bivvies, water and wind-proof bags used for emergency shelter. It's their only protection from the storm.
We'd eaten most of the food that we'd brought with us. We still had a couple of packets of biscuits and some chocolate bars. That's basically what we had left. Our more immediate concern was water. It was too precarious to light the stove, to melt snow for water.
They'll only survive a short time without water. Their hope is that the storm will pass.
Jamie and I had been on many mountaineering adventures together, but this was looking like being the most frightening to date.
All the two men can do is hunker down, knowing that one careless move will send them 1,000 feet to their deaths.
Now it was just a case of surviving the night and waiting for the storm to pass.
But as the night wears on, far from abating, the mountain blizzard intensifies.
It did start into our heads that we couldn't survive this indefinitely. And we started to think that maybe this storm's never going to pass.
By morning, there's still no let-up in the weather.
The storm, if anything, it only got worse. Because the snow is now accompanied by this powerful wind. That was bringing with it, much lower temperatures and much more unpleasant conditions.
This isn't good! What do we do?
Stay put!
What?
Wait for the storm to die down! We can't go anywhere in this!
It didn't take us long to decide that it would be lethal trying to head off down the mountain in those conditions. The same physically demanding situation as yesterday, but with very much more dangerous avalanche risk. So we were effectively trapped.
Unable to move in the sub-zero conditions, their body temperatures are beginning to drop, and they desperately need food to keep them warm.
What have you got?
What?
Food! What food have you got?
We basically had nothing left in the rucksack except for a packet of dry biscuits.
No! I can't eat a biscuit!
Have you ever tried eating dry biscuits without liquid? You just simply can't.
It's starting to break. Jamie, the weather's starting to break.
I looked out, and there, for the first time in days, we could see the mountain peaks on the other side of the valley. We heard that unmistakable thud, 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 thud. And straight away, they saw us. That was just an incredible moment. We were rescued. We were down in the valley. We were having hot baths and hot meals, and all that went through our heads.
But as the helicopter attempts to hover directly overhead, it's pushed back by fierce mountain winds.
Where are they gone?
We realised what the difficulty was. It couldn't hover anywhere near us because of the massive updrafts that blew up the mountain face.
Time after time, the helicopter is forced back. Finally, the pilot manages to get within yards of the stricken men.
We could literally see his face. It was really being thrown about all over the place like a toy.
Close now, come on!
At any moment, it looked like it might be dashed against the rocks on the ridge either side of where we were trapped.
But at the last moment, the pilot loses his battle with the wind and is forced to abandon the rescue.
I can't describe how gutted we were to be left there on the mountain on our own. It just felt even more lonely being there, having seen other people for the first time in days, and then just be left abandoned to our fate on the mountain again.
Thousands of feet up a mountain, without food, water, or shelter. All hope of rescue is now gone. But the brief drop in the wind allows them to light the stove to melt ice for water.
It was Jamie who suggested it. I thought he was crazy trying to actually get the stove burning on this ledge between us. And that was just unbelievable. Just the first time in 3 days that would have been that any liquid had passed our lips. To have some hot, sweet tea was just incredible. And that probably saved our lives that night.
But the pleasure is short-lived. The end of the gas means no more water, and they are still severely dehydrated.
It was incredible that we'd survived so far, but we did begin to lose that battle for survival.
It's the worst storm in a century, and there is nowhere to escape the bitter 80-mile-an-hour winds.
But this new weather was way more severe, really. Very, very cold. That kind of wind chill, the human body just can't survive for very long at all.
As the night wears on, the temperature plummets to well below freezing.
The sleeping bags had become useless to us. The snow had got into them, made them damp, and then that damp freezes. So effectively, the sleeping bags had frozen. With every hour that passed, our optimism faded. During that night, we did begin to lose that battle for survival.
What hill are we on? What? Where are we?
Jamie was becoming more and more confused. He didn't seem to know where we were anymore.
Jamie Fisher is becoming delirious. Gripped by hypothermia, his organs are starting to shut down, and not enough blood is reaching his brain.
Come on, Jamie. You know where we are, Jamie. Tell me where we are.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Come on, Jamie. Come on, Jamie. Tell me where we are. Where we are. Come on.
My only real memories of that day are just of desperation.
During the night, Jamie Fisher's sleeping bag has come loose. Knowing his friend needs every ounce of warmth, Jamie Andrew tries to zip it back up.
I just pulled it in, and then I realized suddenly that I couldn't move my fingers. In an instant, both hands had just frozen, solid.
His hands are frostbitten. His blood and tissue have turned to ice and are irreparably damaged.
And I remember just, in a futile kind of way, just knocking my two hands together and listening to them as they just went thunk, thunk, thunk. My hands were like pieces of frozen meat. As a mountaineer, one of your biggest fears is always going to be frostbite, because if your fingers freeze, you can't do anything for yourself. You're stuffed.
Jamie is completely paralyzed. He watches helplessly as his best friend, in the final stages of hypothermia, begins to lose his mind.
We gotta go. I gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go.
What are you doing?
We gotta go.
Jamie!
And Jamie really became quite delirious and was just sort of thrashing about all over the place.
Jamie, what are you doing? I gotta go! Jamie! Jamie, stay here!
If it wasn't for the fact that he was tied to the mountain, he probably would have fallen off.
Jesus Christ, you're gonna push us off the edge! Jamie, you're gonna push us off the edge!
I desperately tried to to bring him back, to remind him, you know, what mountain we were on, what we were doing there. I soon realised that this, you know, this hypothermia was taking him. And there was nothing I could do to stop it.
After 5 days, battling to stay alive on the mountain, the two climbers are now just hours from death.
There was now no way either of us was getting off this mountain alive.
His hands and feet now solid blocks of ice. Jamie Andrew is helpless to do anything to save his best friend.
Once Jamie's core temperature had dropped, his brain was no longer getting the oxygen it needed. Eventually, that deliriousness gave way to unconsciousness, and ultimately he just stopped moving altogether. And when I saw that taking hold of him, I knew that this really, really was the end. That there was no hope now. And of course, having frozen hands myself, there was nothing I could do. In the end, it was Jamie who went first, and I had to witness that. But mercifully, it didn't take long. He obviously wasn't really aware of what was happening. He wasn't suffering. And I remember sitting there realizing that this was the end. That it was the end for Jamie. It was the end for me too, that there was now no way either of us was getting off this mountain alive. Sometime later, and I have no idea how much later, I opened my eyes again. And the first thing that I saw was rays of sunshine as they lit up all the mountain peaks all around me. Moments later, I heard that helicopter approach. This time I knew that somehow they were going to rescue me. Somehow they were going to get me out of there. I was spinning 1,000 meters above the glacier in space in what was literally one of the most spectacular and daring rescues in the history of the Alps. I knew that I'd made it. I'd been rescued and I was going to live.
But the rescue had come too late for Jamie Fisher. His body was taken down from the mountain shortly afterwards. Jamie Andrew underwent surgery to save his life. Surgeons amputated his dead, frostbitten limbs, which were poisoning his blood.
They were very dark days indeed, those first few days after the accident. But on the other hand, I knew that this was to be the low point in my life, and now I could get on with the job of of putting my life back together again.
For Jamie Andrew, years of reconstructive surgery and rehabilitation followed. But the memories of those 5 days on the ridge are never far away.
I had survived. I was a lucky one. And so I started to make up my mind that I was going to take on this challenge that had been thrown in front of me, and I was just going to treat it like the next big mountain that I had to climb. And so that's really what I've done, just taking it one step at a time. I have rebuilt my life.
Hey, sweetheart, you ready? Yeah.
In a remote town in Western Australia, Matthew McGough and his young daughter Shannon are about to set off for an overnight fishing trip.
Shannon's my only child. We had a really good relationship, really real friends as well as father and daughter. Got on along really well. We always used to laugh and play together a lot.
For Shannon, trips away with her dad are always something to look forward to.
And we are off ski.
Me and my dad were pretty close. We used to go away on weekends a lot.
Mum, we're going!
We'd go fishing, bushwalking, go camping and stuff, because that was the kind of thing he liked to do.
Just a kiss. Okay, okay. Be safe.
Matthew is recently separated from his wife, Irene. But she knows how much Matthew cares for Shannon, and she's more than happy to see them spend time together.
Shannon loved camping, and so they used to quite regularly go on camping trips, and nothing ever happened, so there was never any reason to worry.
We're off, sweetheart.
They live in a small town on the edge of Australia's Great Victoria Desert, a terrain Matthew knows well.
The only way to get to see the countryside is to get off the beaten track. And that's the ruling I've always lived by.
Look there.
What? Oh, wow.
The plan today is to drive just 40 miles into the outback, camp for the night, and head back the next day.
I got further than you.
No, you didn't.
Yes,
No,
I did.
you didn't.
Matthew wants to make this trip an extra special one, as he's about to move 1,500 miles away. And this may be their last weekend together for some time. So he takes Shannon to his favourite rock pool.
It was our last trip. We were going to see each other for a while, so that's made it a bit more special.
Well, it's just a case of spend some time with Shannon for the last week or so before I took off.
Have you caught anything, Dad?
Nothing yet, sweetheart. Maybe later, eh?
That night, father and daughter enjoy an idyllic evening together in the outback.
One of my favourite parts was probably laying like under the stars and like watching them, and Dad would point out things that he knew from his childhood.
Yeah, just check out the stars and the moon and listen to all the nightlife coming out to play.
Like a kind of a bonding thing, which was good.
Right, let's go, sweetheart.
The next morning, they're due to head back home. It's been a great trip, but one thing is missing. They haven't caught any fish.
Shannon sort of looked up underneath the hair and you could see she was a little bit disappointed.
So before returning Shannon home, Matthew decides to take a detour to try and catch her some fish.
Listen, sweetheart, I've got an idea. Jump in.
I sort of had a bit of an idea where there was another dam, a fair way away, but yeah, had a general idea about where to go.
Getting to the fishing spot means heading a further 50 miles away from civilization, far deeper into the outback. It's a vast expanse of desert, covering more than 100,000 square miles. Dangerous and inhospitable, one of the hottest places on Earth.
The Australian Outback is an unforgiving place. It's very harsh. The heat, you're looking 45 degrees Celsius, stinking hot, simple as that.
But Matthew is confident that he knows the area well and has come well prepared.
We had 20 litres of water, spare tyres, food, tent and all that. I reckon I took pretty much all I needed to take.
Matthew and Shannon drive for over 2 hours, deeper and deeper into the desert. But there's no sign of the waterhole.
We're just pretty much going through a bush track, not well defined on the ground or anything. It's just virtually a couple of wheel tracks going through the scrub.
His 4x4 is a tough vehicle, but Matthew is driving in ever rougher terrain.
You're kidding me. You stay here, it's all right.
What happened, Dad?
It's a tyre. It's no problem.
Matthew has come well prepared and has 3 spare tyres on board.
I wasn't in particularly good mood of changing a tyre at that time of the day. I was sweating, yeah, I was bloody soaked to the bone.
It's all right, it's all done. You all right? Yeah, that's good. Let's go.
With the tyre fixed and 2 more spares in the back, Matthew is still confident he can find the fishing spot. But the desert is strewn with boulders and sharp rocks.
What was that, Dad?
It's the tyre.
I'd only gone a couple of miles and then I had to change another tyre.
It's now mid-afternoon. The hottest time of the day, with temperatures hitting 115 degrees Fahrenheit. And Matthew begins to have doubts about his quest to search for the rock pool.
I was just wondering whether it was all worth it or not, pretty much.
But still eager to live up to the promise he made to Shannon, Matthew decides to press on.
We'll be fine. Let's get going.
By my calculations, we're about halfway from where we'd come from to where we were going. And what's the point of turning around? Might as well continue on.
By late afternoon, and 60 miles out into the desert, Matthew fears he's losing his way.
I'm sure it's around here someplace.
I sort of run out of road, I lost me track. was sort of a little bit worried that we hadn't got to where we were going.
I could actually tell that Dad was worried. I knew something serious was going on.
With just one spare tyre left, Matthew abandons his quest to go fishing and decides that it's time to get Shannon home.
I had one more spare tyre, but the way I was going through the tyres, I didn't think I had enough.
Dad. Are we gonna be all right?
Then you get home.
I was pretty peeved about the idea of getting a third puncher, again in a sting and eat.
Matthew knows that the 4x4 is their only way out. But with no more spares, another puncture could be fatal. With hundreds of miles of scorching desert all around, there's no way they could ever walk out of here alive.
You all right, sweetheart?
Yep.
Good. Right, let's go.
Are we lost, Daddy?
Shannon said, we lost Dad, and I said, oh, I think so. You know, no use lying to her, you know.
Matthew presses on, hoping to come across a track which will lead them to safety. But just when he thinks he's making progress, the 4x4 suddenly stops in its tracks.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
What happened, Dad?
I started rubbing my head, thinking, what the was going on? Why me? Why such bad luck?
Jump out, sweetheart. We are not going anywhere.
We've run out of track, we've run out of spares, we're stuck. I was supposed to have Shannon back that night, and we weren't going back that night. There was no way in the world.
As darkness falls, Matthew and Shannon have no choice but to camp out for the night.
Oh, I mean, if it had been just me, it wouldn't have been no matter, but I had Shannon with me. She was my main concern. She's always my main concern when she's with me.
And in the remote outback, he's unable to call his ex-wife.
If I could have phoned home, I would have, but yeah, no reception. Absolutely no signal whatsoever. At that point, I was thinking that, yeah, I might have made the wrong decision by not turning around and going back.
Okay, fine. Let's get going.
I was calling myself the biggest idiot under the sun.
It's now been 12 hours since their water ran out. A lack of water will kill an adult within days. But Shannon is just a small child.
It just seemed like we weren't going to make it. Not one thing that I was trying to do to save us or to get us rescued or to attract attention was working.
Careful, Daddy. Over here!
I told Shannon that if we don't get found today, I doubt very much whether we'll get through tomorrow. I doubt very much at all.
Good girl.
all I wanted was just to go home. And having my dad tell me that that might not happen, that I might not be able to do that, it was quite upsetting for me.
Yeah. It made me feel useless. It's a big letdown for yourself when you feel like you can't provide for your daughter in the way you should.
Matthew decides that their only hope of being spotted is to strike out in the direction from which the helicopter came.
The reason I thought of going down towards the open ground, people that have more of a chance to see us.
But walking on in the blazing midday sun only dehydrates them further.
The heat, flies, mosquitoes at night, dust. No sleep for 3 days and nights. I was stuffed. No other way of putting it. I was absolutely knackered.
Shannon can take little more. The heat has exhausted her, and she's now so weak she can barely walk.
I wished that I had the energy to be able to pick her up and carry her, but I didn't have that. I might take 2 or 3 steps, but yeah, that was it. I had to put it down again. I couldn't do it. That's probably a very, very hard thing for a dad to, or for any person, I'd say, to be able to understand that you can't pick your own girl up, you can't pick your own child up and carry her. You just don't have the energy to do it, and that's a pretty hard thing to come by, to understand. Very hard.
It's now been 24 hours since Shannon has drunk any water. Desperate, Matthew considers a terrible option: giving her a drink of his own blood.
That idea came from watching documentaries on telly. I know there's some African tribe over there that can cut the vein on a cow and drink the blood from it. I got the knife and I put it on my wrist and applied some pressure. But it didn't happen, and I realised that my knife was just way too blunt.
What are you doing, Daddy?
Oh, nothing, sweetheart. It's okay.
It was sort of a last resort, really, you know?
Matthew had wanted this weekend to be a very special one with his precious daughter. Now he knows that without water or rescue, she could be dead within hours.
Yeah, we had a big cry together, even though there was no tears. There was a lot of sobbing, but there was no tears whatsoever. We were too dry to even cry a tear. And even to think about it now, like, I feel sad. I feel like I want to burst out in tears, actually. So yeah, you know, it's just one of those things. And I'd hate to ever put Shannon through that again.
Back at her home, Shannon's mum is running out of hope that her daughter will be found alive.
Looking up to the heavens and thinking, you know, if you're there, you know, show yourself by bringing her home. I would have promised everything and anything to have her back safe, yeah.
Their plight is hopeless, but Matthew won't give in till he's done everything he can to save Shannon.
I couldn't sleep. I had to get us rescued, and that was all I was taught. I got a log burning, and I took that out onto the flat and just started waving it around.
Hello!
Just trying to get attention. Somebody's attention, anybody's attention.
Hello!
From out of nowhere, this bloody set of headlights are heading straight towards us.
Help us!
The car was coming towards us, and then it just veered off.
Over here!
The driver of the vehicle doesn't see him, and their chance of rescue disappears into the night.
The feeling of elation just got shot down in flames. To see those taillights disappearing into the distance was just the worst moment of my life.
With the chance of rescue gone, Matthew is convinced that he and Shannon will not survive the night.
We'd played together, laughed together, cried together, and now we're going to die together.
All rescue efforts have failed to find Matthew and Shannon McGough, and they've gone 2 days without water in the ferocious heat. Extreme dehydration is causing Shannon's organs to shut down. She and her dad are both close to death.
I doubt very much whether we would have survived an 8th day. Pretty bloody sure of it, actually.
Then, just when all hope is lost, they come across a track. It's where the car must have driven past them the night before.
I was not going to leave the track. We're following it in the hope that this vehicle would come back or another vehicle had come through.
But Shannon can go no further.
Shannon wasn't saying much at all. Yeah, very, very quiet. I'd speak to her and she'd just shake her head or nod her head up and down, but she wouldn't speak, so disheartening.
Exposed to the scorching desert sun, Matthew needs to protect his dying child from the unbearable heat.
It was boiling. The heat had risen big time. It was hotter than the last few days. And I knew that I needed to get Shannon into the shade. So I dug a hole in the ground so that I could put Shannon in it and then cover her back over. And that would keep her a bit cooler than sitting out in the open.
But in this remote part of the outback, there's no guarantee they'll see another car for days, even weeks. Matthew knows he may have just dug his daughter's grave.
was extremely sad because I brought my daughter out into this wilderness and that I'd put her life in danger.
After 8 days, battling to keep himself and his daughter alive, Matthew finally gives up.
It was just like, it's hopeless. There's nobody here, nobody can see us, nobody will see us. We were going to actually die of thirst, a slow, agonising death.
Dad rushing back over and waking me up and saying that we'd been found.
After 8 days in the outback, their ordeal is finally over.
I felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders. I felt fantastic.
I still remember the car pulling up and this little girl coming out and me just crying and crying and putting her in my arms. And she said, I know why you're crying, Mum, because you're happy to see me. And I was, yeah.
Doctors estimate that when Shannon was found, she had just a few hours to live.
Yeah, I'd say it's a miracle.
Despite their ordeal, Matthew and Shannon are still close and still go camping together.
Dad probably takes more supplies now and we don't go as far, but it doesn't really change the fact that we still go camping.
I think there was a stronger bond as a result, although the next time we went camping, I wanted to go down this track and she said, "Don't you dare, Dad, you stick to this one." So, you know.